Hello. I'll just wait for people to log on. I do know that with these webinars, often people don't, I'm just going to let some people on. Admit. Hi everybody. I probably shouldn't have set a waiting room option or not. I was just saying I do appreciate we did a lot of registration for this, but I know a lot of people register so they can watch the recording, and that is totally cool. So I'm not going to wait very long and just press on with my presentation, if that's okay. So thanks so much for coming if you're here now, and thanks so much for watching if you're watching at a later date. Let me just share my screen. And my presentation, hang on, and now I can't see how to, there we go. Okay, let me just go back up here to the present. There we go. These Google Slides take a while to load up, and I did one of these presentations before, one of these webinars on fertility like a few weeks ago back, and I was chatting away for ages, and I was hitting slides and they were moving on my screen, but they weren't moving on everyone else's. So please tell me if they're not moving on, okay? So we are looking at aromatherapy tonight and essential oils. Essential oils are something that I completely love. So I don't make any claims to be an aromatherapist. See, I can't even say it, but I love them, and I read a lot about them, and I use them in everyday life. I use them in my yoga practice. I use them in my yoga studio. Oh, there's somebody else. Oh, there's Alison, my lovely client Alison, and my other client Chloe's here today. I use them in my everyday life. I use them on my kids. I use them in my yoga practice. I use them in my studio, and I use them in the massage that I do. I'm a massage therapist as well. So I love them. So we're doing this 6 weeks of self-care series with YogaBellies. So every week we're doing a different topic, and I just jumped at this one because I love essential oils so much. So I want to talk, it's just a kind of whistle-stop introduction to them really. How they're kind of made, and I want to talk to you about stress, and I want to talk to you about how they can help. Okay, so let's just crack on. Like I said, please tell me if these slides aren't moving forward. So I've moved forward with one, so hopefully yours are getting them moved forward as well. So basically, introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know me. My name's Annie Perry, and I'm a YogaBellies teacher in East Kilbride. I know there'll be people watching this recording from all over, but I'm up in East Kilbride in Scotland. I have a studio here, and I just love it. So as I say, we're going to look at the magic of aromatherapy and essential oils, and look at some holistic ways we can use them to boost immunity. So important for the world just now. Because stress has a massive impact on your immune system. So the stress that we're all experiencing just now really directly does impact on immunity. So how can we use essential oils to help with that? All right, so what is aromatherapy? So there's somebody else coming, just admit them in. So aromatherapy is essentially treatment, it's a holistic treatment using scents, okay? So reaching the core of our senses through touch and smell using scents from aromatic oils. So the ultimate aim of it is to heal and uplift the body and spirit, making us feel better mentally and physically. Okay, so it isn't just all woo and airy-fairy, it genuinely, the olfactory system of the body is a real thing, smell is a real thing, and it really does affect the way we feel mentally and physically. Let me move on. And what is it not? So it's not just massage, which I thought, oh God, that's actually great news to tell people, because nobody can get booked in for a massage for love nor money this year, can't we not? I think there's only been a few weeks where massage therapists can work. So it's not just aromatherapy massage, there's so many ways we can use it in the house, basically, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? We want to look at ways we can bring essential oils into the house to get used to using them in everyday life. So we're going to explore some of these ways, and there's tons you might not even have thought of doing. Okay, you don't need fancy equipment to use them, or fancy qualifications either to use them. Right, so what is an essential oil? So they are highly concentrated wee things, okay? They're all natural, so they're all naturally occurring. Volatile aromatic compounds, okay? So they're found in various places, so it's not just flowers. I think that sometimes we tend to think of flowers, don't we? Because what's the first oil we think of? Lavender. And there's a good reason why we all know about lavender, because it is amazing, but it's a flower, isn't it? But there can be, you know, seeds, bark, stems, roots, the flowers obviously, and other parts of the plant. So I mean, it's diverse, so diverse. So they can be beautifully and powerfully fragrant. Now, some of them are nicer than others, aren't they, in terms of the smell of them? Fragrant, flowery ones, citrus, you know, whatever appeals to you really. But sometimes the ones that don't smell particularly fab have still got amazing medicinal qualities. They also protect the plants and play a role in plant pollination themselves. And I mean, there's a long history in them. It kind of dates back to like the Egyptians, really, I think, in terms of documentation of when they were used. So they've long been used in food preparation, beauty treatment, and healthcare practices. All right, still are in modern medicine and in modern pharmaceuticals as well. So where do they come from? So obviously, like I was saying, they're huge, right? So they come from all over the world. And obviously, as time's gone by, it's a bit like, you know, when you think of spices and the food we eat, in terms of how that's evolved. But obviously, it's come from trade routes, hasn't it, and things like that. And it's the same with essential oils. So again, if you think of lavender, again, rosemary, marjoram, so things like that they grow here, they're native here, so they're very, very easily accessible. But then you think of things like ylang ylang and sandalwood, much more exotic, coming from more eastern places. And they are, so their crops, obviously they're grown, so they're very much, you get good years and bad years for essential oils, the same way like wine you do. The quality of the oil reflects the quality of the soil as well. And the yield is important in terms of what we're looking at, right? So in terms of the price we're going to pay for it ultimately, all right? So if you think of, so some of them can be really, really expensive, and sometimes you kind of balk at it and you think, oh my God, I can't pay that for like less than 5 mils of an oil. But it's to do with, it's like buying an expensive wine, okay? So it's to do with the yield. So it takes thousands of petals to produce like the floral oils, the very exotic floral oils like jasmine, and rose isn't really exotic, but you know what I mean. So the secretory yield of it isn't high, so therefore it's expensive. Things like tea tree and eucalyptus, think about how well known they are and how diverse they are, obviously because they're fab and they're very medicinal, but they're actually very easily produced from the distillation of the leaves, so they're less expensive, so they're much more widely known and widely used. Okay, so there's different methods of how they're extracted. I think it's quite interesting, so I thought I'd just pop some stuff in on this, right? So again, I think it's interesting to figure out where they came from so that you can really appreciate this tiny bottle, do you know? So there's 4 kind of methods. The first one, steam distillation, is the most common and the most prolific. There's other ones, solvent extraction, enfleurage, and expression. So I'll just quickly whiz you through all of these, okay? So steam distillation, so the plant matter, so whatever it is you're using, so whether it is the roots, the bark, the leaves, whatever it is placed in a still and they pass steam through, which carries the oil particles to another container. The steam cools, goes back to a watery liquid, but then it's not just water, it's a mixture of the water, of the steam, plus the particles of the essential oil from the plant matter. Then that all separates. So if you imagine you've got a pot of water and you put some oil in it, it would come to the top, wouldn't it? And you could skim it off. same way. And purists believe the only oil obtained that way can be called essential oil. And I think these things are really good to know if you do start to delve into buying them and really appreciating which ones you're buying and how much, you know, to make sure your pennies are going to the right place. Okay. So these are the other methods that I'm just skipping over because like mostly it's steam distillation. So there's other ways where they use solvents to extract them. So they heat solvents to remove the oil. And it's kind of more used in perfumery than aromatherapy. Okay, so that would be more for when they make lovely perfumes. Enfleurage is slow and delicate, quite common in France actually. I think they tend to, one of the only countries that tend to use this. So I thought this was fascinating. So they take the flower petals and they lay them on glass frames. And they smear it with grease, and then those wee petals wither, so they put fresh ones back on, and then they wither, they put fresh ones back on. So all that grease that they put on ends up absolutely saturated with this flower oil, and then it's washed in alcohol to extract it, so you're left with potent oil. I think all of these types of methods, you do start to get a real appreciation for how concentrated and potent these things are. They're so powerful. And the expression methods used for things like citrus. So when you're talking about your lemon oils, your orange oils, bergamot, all things like that. In the past, back in the day, they actually would hand squeeze that out and they collect it in sponges, which is now obviously done in machines so that it's mass produced. But do you know, do you ever think about how even just cutting an orange or a lemon or a lime, it's a kind of, those oils they're automatically like diffused into the air, and that scent, how does it make you feel? You literally can't help but breathe deeply and feel uplifted. So that's the way they would do the citrus oils. Okay, so let's move on to look at some like the general properties of them. So once they've made them into these oils and these tiny little bottles, what are the properties of them? So although they are called oils, they're not greasy and oily like a cooking oil. It's actually consistent more like alcohol. You know how we didn't, like until a year or so ago, we didn't really know that hand sanitizer, alcohol, evaporation type, you know, that kind of dry type liquid. There's somebody else coming in. That's what they're like. Okay, so some of them like myrrh and benzoin are thick, very, very thick, like runny honey, but most of them aren't. All essential oils have their own unique character or blueprint. So one essential oil is not like the other. So one kind of variant is not like the other. And this is, I think, the great thing, right? That in this day and age, it is impossible to produce an essential oil in its exact form synthetically. So all these pharmaceutical companies, all these beauty companies try their very best, but they can't do it, which is why there's absolutely no point deviating from the real thing. And I'm going to say this quite a few times through this presentation. They are so, so potent. So you only need a tiny amount, okay? They are so, so potent, which is why I did want to go through how they were made, so that, because I'm the same, you think, oh, that's not working, you fire more in the diffuser, and before you know it, you've blown your senses away by doing too much. Okay. Again, the use dates back to ancient Egypt. They've been around for so long. And because I said they can't be synthetically reproduced, pharmaceutical and food industries use them in their essential oil form. So if you think of like peppermint oil in toothpaste, natural antiseptics, so they use tea tree and things. They can't replicate them, so they use the real oil. They are natural antiseptics. They are the best thing you can clean your house with, an essential oil, because they're so potent and naturally antiseptic. They can kill germs without harming body tissue. So this year accepted, obviously we're using all the chemicals we can get to get rid of the C word. But in terms of like normal year, then really all these kind of cleaning products aren't great for, especially the kids in the house, and they're just not great for bodies basically. So using more natural essential oils are brilliant. Some are analgesic or anti-inflammatory, so they have genuine pain relieving qualities on the body, and they can take inflammation away from the body. An example of that would be like chamomile. Some have antidepressant qualities like bergamot. That's a citrus, it's uplifting, you can see why. Some are really diverse, right? So I've mentioned lavender before, and I'm going to mention it time and time again. It is the reason everybody knows it, and the reason it's so diverse is A, because it is pretty easy to produce, but B, it's the way we can use it and how we can use it is so diverse. It's an antiseptic. It's soothing and healing. It can relieve pain in the body. It can relieve labour pains. It can soothe a headache. It can aid sleep. It's pretty amazing. Some people are put off by lavender because of I think it's a generational thing, and you think of lavender soap of older generations used, but see that soapy lavender, that's a cheap lavender. So if you buy a good quality steam distilled, I'll talk to you a wee bit about buying your oils, because it might be a few questions if you're just getting into essential oils, like what am I looking for when I buy it. If you buy a good quality one, I bet you change your mind about lavender. Tea tree is the same, so it's very, very well known, but again, it's antiseptic, soothing and healing. It is it's also antifungal as well, so that's another property of tea tree. So the kind of ways we kind of think about the properties of them are loosely categorized into 4 kind of ways to think about it, okay? Sedating, antiseptic, stimulating, or relaxing, okay? So tonight we're going to be looking at stress and anxiety and what to use for there. So you kind of want all of them in a way when you look at what oils you would use. So if you struggle to sleep, you want a more sedating one. If you need uplifted and your mood needs uplifted, then you need a stimulating one. Relaxing, you need to relax. So it goes without saying. So it's not just one oil is going to, suit everything. You can use different types, and that's the fun of it. That's when it gets fun, when you can do wee blends and things, and different ones for different times of the day. So how do they get into the skin? So essentially we do need to absorb them into the body for it to do anything, don't we? And it does that by 2 things. So by the sense of smell or by absorption into the skin. All right, so that's the 2 ways. So we'll talk about smell first, okay? So smell is a really valued sense in humans. We're really cut off from it because of a lot of chemicals and that are in our environment. Chinese medicine is massive on it, and somebody who treats, so Chinese medicine is very much, they treat the whole body and they treat illness before it's happened, in a sense. So they are very much about keeping you well. And one of the main things a Chinese doctor, somebody working in Chinese medicine, or somebody administering acupuncture on you, one of the first things they're going to look at in your body is how you smell, because we give off a smell for certain, if we've got certain illnesses or certain imbalances in the body. So it's huge, but in Western world we don't value it the same way. So smell triggers real psychological and physiological responses in the body. We all know that, don't we? There's things that you walk into a room or you walk by something in the street and all of a sudden you're transported to your childhood or a very, very specific memory. I mean, how cool is that? It's quite huge. So substances like an essential oil send out these odour molecules that when we breathe them in, receptor cells really high up in the nose transmits like an electronic impulse to the brain, to the olfactory centre of the brain. And then that again is linked to other systems. So there's memory. I mentioned memory. Emotions can evoke an emotion in the body, can link to hormones in the body, sexual feelings, and heart rate. So heart rate we need to really control with stress and anxiety. So these impulses work really quickly, triggering these neurochemicals that can be stimulating, sedating, relaxing, or euphoric. There's those categories of essential oils that we were talking about before. Let me just have a wee sip of my tea. I literally just finished teaching a yoga class before this as well, and I've just come straight into it. So I've got a total drift because I've just heard the sound of my own voice for what feels like 2 hours now. Okay, next. Right, so the skin. So this is the other way that an essential oil can be transmitted into the body. So it's the largest organ of the body, the skin. It is our outer warning system. So it relays messages to the brain about the environment. So this is things like temperature, pain, touch, and it also reflects, it's like a mirror reflecting the inner health of the body. So it's an amazing organ. And it will allow certain substances through. So essentially it's waterproof, isn't it? But it's not completely waterproof. It will let substances through if the molecular structure is small enough. Essential oils, molecular structure is small enough. So that's handy, isn't it? So often in Western medicine now, they're starting to look at ways that the medication can be applied to the skin because it bypasses the digestive system. So there's like anti-angina drugs, hormone replacement therapy that can be applied to the skin, and it takes it away from the digestive tract, which is always good, isn't it? So like I was saying there, the tiny molecular structure of essential oils makes it able to pass through the skin via the hair follicles. Then it diffuses into the blood system or taken into the lymphatic and extracellular fluids. Okay, how do we get there? Because we don't just get this potent oil and whack it on the skin. We wouldn't do that. Please don't do that. So how do we get it into the skin? Okay, so this is where we get to the kind of practicalities of it, because if you're here, you're already kind of sold on essential oils, aren't you? You already love them, and you just kind of want to know how to use them. So this is how we use them. So massage, baths, compresses, inhalations, so inhaling it, perfuming a room or purifying the air. And then I've just put always use the caution there again. This is a wee proviso. So let's go through them and think of ways that we can do it, okay? That we can get essential oils in. So, right, I think that's wrong there actually. I think this was me doing this in a hurry. Yeah, it was. So see when it says baths there, it's meant to say massage. Hey ho. So, like I said, we can't get a massage just now, right? Well, actually, I don't know where you are in the country, but I'm talking about me here. We can't. In Scotland, where I am, we can get a massage, but self massage is really good as well. Before we moved all online with my yoga classes, I would often get my ladies to do a wee bit of self massage before Savasana, and we do like a YogaBellies nurture class where we massage the babies, but we also massage the mother. And don't underestimate it, because sometimes you think, oh, I very good, how relaxing massaging myself, but actually it really does. It's that oxytocin that's been released. It's lovely. So we can do it through body massage, foot massage, or facial massage. So literally you're never applying the oil directly to the skin. So you get it in a carrier oil. So with that, it would be something like an almond oil, a grapeseed oil, something that's completely perfume free, completely natural, and it's just going to be a carrier. We get that oil, and it's literally a drop or two of your chosen oil, getting it nice and warm in the hand. The warmth really helps to break the molecules down and break the smell down and get it into the skin better. So literally warming it. Obviously going to an aromatherapy massage is lush and getting it done. I'm just talking about ways that we can do it at home just now. So literally sitting in a really comfortable position, getting the oils warm, dropping chin to chest, and literally doing things like just sweeping it down either shoulder, rubbing into your neck, massaging your hands, so getting your thumb into your hand, rolling up each finger. Google some self-massage and give it a try. It is really, really nice. Using the feet is really good as well. Facial massage can be really good. So if you are stressed to the nines, getting a nice light carrier oil, some chamomile, one or two drops of Roman chamomile, and just giving the face a massage, and see, as soon as you start massaging your face, you realize how much tension you're holding, like in your jaw, along your teeth, sinuses. So you're rubbing along there and over your nose, and it is lush. So that's one way we can get it into the body. That shouldn't say baths again, it should say massage, but obviously it's giving away what we're doing next, which is baths. So whenever we think of self-care, we always think of like bubble baths, don't we? Which is kind of, there's Kira trying to get back in again. Which is all well and good, but I often think it's kind of like, I think if you don't treat the making this bath for yourself as a real sort of sacred ritual, you're not going to get the same therapeutic qualities. So for me personally, it's clearing away all the plastic bath toys, clearing them away, and really thinking about what my body needs, how I'm feeling and what my body needs. Do I need a warming oil? Do I need a sedating oil? And think about what kind of oil you need. I often find using Epsom salts as well in the bath as well, and just creating that environment. But the hot water and the oils is going to really release the oils, and it will seep into your skin. And a few drops in a full bathtub of water, the therapeutic qualities of that is amazing. And they do say like it takes up to 7 hours for, depending on your body type and your skin, it can take up to 7 hours for all the oil to seep in. So aromatherapy massage kind of say don't, so you know when you're all covered in the oil, they say don't go for a shower till the next morning. Is just let everything seep in. And I always think it's the same with your bath. Try and stay for as long as you can. And when you get out, don't scrub your skin, just pat it dry and let all those molecules get in. Sitz baths are more something you would think about postnatally, perhaps. It's literally a bath that you can use some really therapeutic oils for postnatal soreness, and you're literally just sitting in with the genitals with some lovely soothing oils. And foot baths are another lovely way. If you say you don't have time or anything, or or it's the middle of the day and you don't want to run a big bath, a lovely little foot bath to really calm with some nice gentle oils is really, really good. Compresses are really good and really under kind of utilized for how to use essential oils. And it's dead easy, right? So you basically get your chosen oil, and we'll talk a few oils later on. You get it in water. Now, hot is lovely for getting the fragrance going and getting it all agitated, but sometimes a little cold compress is really what you're after, depending on what you want to treat. Say it's a headache or something. So all you need to do is get like a wee basin of water, put your few drops of oil or your mix of oils, and you just gently agitate it. So you just maybe shake the basin or give it a quick mix. Oh, that's enough to release the molecules, break them down. And then you literally get a wee clean cloth or flannel, fold it up, and I would say don't submerge it in, just sort of place that wee folded flannel on the top of the liquid, just so that it starts to seep in, and then the essential oil. So then you've kind of got one side of the flannel that's not maybe saturated, and the other side is where all the lush stuff. And then you get that, and say it's a headache, placing it on the head. Say it's something sore, say you've sprained your wrist, say you've put it on that. brilliant homeopathic, holistic way to treat things. Inhalations is another good one. Obviously, the one I'm thinking about firstly there is eucalyptus for like colds and sinus problems and things like that. So that's like getting steam. So you would boil a kettle for that one because you want to get lots of steam. And literally that lady's doing there with a wee towel, just inhaling them. Again, just watch the amount you'd be putting in there because it's powerful when you fold over it. And then another really good one is using a tissue or a handkerchief to inhale it. It means you can have it on the go. So I often think this is a good one for if you were really wanting to use aromatherapy during your labour and you had it all go and you were having a hospital birth, not a home birth, and you had it all go in the house while you were labouring, but then you kind of go to the hospital and you've lost all that aromatherapy. Hospitals are getting great at using it, but see, just having that comfort of clary sage or lavender on a handkerchief to have to sniff, amazing. But then just to have in daily life, I have them in the car and everything, just dotted around to have a wee sniff. It's really lovely. So that's a way to inhale it, getting to those receptors at the top of the nose that go to the olfactory centre of the brain. Okay, this is one, so I don't think I've found the best picture of a diffuser there. So getting it in the air. So by saying perfume the rooms, I don't mean make it smell nice, even though it does smell lush. It's literally the only thing I use in my house to make it smell nice is lots of diffusers about the place. But while you're perfuming the room, you're getting the benefits of the aromatherapy. So you can do this. You don't have to buy a diffuser, although diffusers are brilliant. So diffusers are in that picture there, and it is an electronic device that you put literally like an inch of water in with your few drops of oil, put the lid on, plug it in, and it goes away, and you'll see this like spout of what looks like steam, but it's not steam because it's cold water being shot through, and it is amazing for the air. But if there can be pricey, so if you don't have the pennies for that, you can do it different ways. So you literally can just get like little basins of hot water and boil your kettle, pop them in different rooms, and just some oil in with some hot water, and the steam will bring it into the room. It doesn't last as long, but it's still good. A plant atomizer is literally a squishy bottle, basically, but they're good because the way those plant atomizers spray isn't like your kitchen surface spray. It's more diffusive, if that's the word, so it breaks it down into smaller molecules. You can use a burner, so you know those little, I often see them more for like when people use wax melts and things, but you can use those exact little things to do your oils. So you get those little burners, and you can get them in like Home Bargains and B&M, where you get a wee tea light in, but it's got the wee tiny little basin at the top. You wouldn't put like undiluted oil in that. You would put either a carrier oil or water in that, and then the heat from the wee tea light diffuses it into the room. You can literally put some undiluted onto cotton wool balls and pop them about, pop them on your top of your radiator. That's really good. But the only thing I would say is if you've got wee ones, don't do that, because the first thing they'll do is take that wee cotton wool ball and eat it, if they're anything like my kids were anyway, and you don't want them to do that because we never ingest them. We do not want to ingest them. We don't want the digestive system involved. Remember I was saying about applying to the skin takes the digestive system out of it. And that last one is in a vacuum cleaner, and I read this today and I thought, do you know, I'm putting that in even though I don't do that because I've got a shark so I can't do that. But you know those ones with the bags, like where you take the bag and empty it, pop in a few wee dots into your vacuum cleaner when you're going round. It smells lush. I've got a wee Henry Hoover that I sometimes do that with when I'm not using my shark. So that's other ways. And then my caution, right? I've said it a few times, but I'm going to say it again. So we always dilute it before applying to the skin. I read a book today that said with lavender, you don't need to, but I think I would always dilute it. So with a carrier oil or mixed with water. So again, if you don't have, say you've got a busting headache and you just want some lavender in your temples and you don't have a carrier oil, just get some water to dilute it and then get the water to rub on. We just want to take it down. We've talked about how potent it is. You can add it to creams and lotions. So if you've got quite an unperfumed kind of lotion, like a basic one, like say something like an E45 or something, you can pop it in that. And we never ever take it by the mouth. It's too strong for the alimentary tract. All right. So that's thinking about ways you can get using it without spending an absolute fortune. Right, so want to talk, so the whole point of this is how can we use them for stress and immunity, okay? So the word stress is banded around so much that I think we've actually become immune to the word stress. I don't think we realise the magnitude of the effect of stress on our day-to-day life and the effect of stress on the body. The effect of stress is massive in terms of developing illnesses, developing problems with, as a woman with menstruation, affecting your endocrine system, so affecting hormonal balances in the body. It's huge. So this is something I talk about a lot with a lot of my classes. Most of my classes actually, the effect on all my class types of the type of woman that's in it is massive. So I just want to talk about it now. So basically, I want to talk about fight or flight just briefly. So a fight or flight, again, something that you'll probably have heard of and haven't really registered what it is. Fight or flight is where we have two different sides to our nervous system, okay, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic's the good one, right? Kind of the good one. That is where we want to live most of our life, okay? The parasympathetic is where we're activating rest and digest. It's where we can activate good quality rest and good quality digestion in the body. The other side of it is the sympathetic nervous system, and that is the one that's a brilliant response to have in our bodies. It's inbuilt in our bodies. It stems from way back when we used to have to run from saber-toothed tigers. It's still there. It is where hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are activated, where our heart rate's increased, where our blood flow goes to our extremities, it goes to our arms and our legs, and it enables us to run. It enables us to get out of there, of this threat. So as an evolutionary being, that was an amazing response because it saved us from threats. And then as soon as the threat was gone, we had an ability to switch back to the parasympathetic side of our nervous system, rest and digest, happy days. We're all happy as Larry again, right? Where the problem is now is that we can't go back to the parasympathetic nervous system after a threat. So you might be thinking, okay, well, I've not had a threat because I've not been held by gunpoint, or I've not nearly ran out in front of a bus. That's not how the human brain works anymore. That is not the only threats that activate this sympathetic nervous system and leads us to be in it chronically. So this sympathetic side of the nervous system, where all those hormones are there all the time, so the adrenaline, the cortisol are there all the time, is from things like work stress, when we try, we're go all the time, where we don't rest enough, we don't digest our food properly, we're in that all the time, and it has now come to the point where we are chronically in that, and it is so detrimental. And add the past year into it, right? So then we're highly, highly stressed, and the effect internally is massive. So therefore, we need to do everything in our power, in my opinion, to reverse that. That is why we practice yoga. That's why we try to do meditation. That's why we try to turn our electronics off earlier on in the night, so that because the way we're living nowadays is just, it's chronic, right? And that's why I am willing to try anything, and that's why I love essential oils, because I think they do have a massive effect on this stress. So I just want to read you a little quote from a book that I love. Every time I talk about this subject, I read this little paragraph, okay? It's from a book called Thrive by Arianna Huffington. I don't know if you can even see me, but it's brilliant. And she talks about fight or flight again. And she says, we need to liberate ourselves from the tyranny of the fight or flight mechanism. And yet, much of our life has actually been structured so that we live in an almost permanent state of fight or flight. So she's an example she's giving is, here comes another dozen emails calling out for a response. I must stay up late to finish the project. I'll just use these 4 minutes of downtime to return 6 more calls. Under our current definition of success, so this successful, I don't know, Western way of living, a chronic state of fight or flight is a feature, not a bug. So it's actually required of us nowadays, and it's not right, basically. So there's my lecture over for the evening. We're talking about essential oils again. So stress is huge, okay? That's the bottom line, okay? So take care of yourselves is what I'm always lecturing all my clients, and I'm sure your YogaBellies teacher lectures you on it as well. Because when the body is stressed, the body literally cannot function properly. It can't detox or function. That's what I was talking about, how digestion just goes to nothing because we're meant to be running from a predator. We don't have time to digest and rest. Stress releases cortisol and insulin levels, resulting in blood sugar imbalances, hormonal issues, weight gain, and I can never say that word. Toxic. I'm not going to try and say it. You can read it. So stress is the biggest toxin in this world. So see, when we think about all the pollution, and which is obviously shocking and really, really bad, actually stress is the biggest threat to our lives as humans at the moment. And when we stress, the gut lining gets inflamed. 80% of our immune system is located in our guts. So literally the way we can undo all that is learning simple tools to de-stress. It's essential for your immunity, even fighting off things like the common cold. So please don't stress. Please use aromatherapy to help. Okay, so here's some tips. This takes it away from aromatherapy for a minute as well. So the whole digestion and assimilation and rest and digest is really, really important. Okay, it's important for immunity. So don't eat on the go. Mindfully eat. We're all guilty of it, aren't we? If we've a stressful job, if we've got kids, if we just, we are very guilty of at least 1 or 2 of our meals just being on the go. And it really is important to mindfully eat and digest to help with immunity, to help with stress reduction. Breathing 5 minutes a day. It sounds like, oh, I could never find time for that. You can, 5 minutes a day. Taking a break from the computer, closing your eyes and breathing. This is a big one, and I'd love to know the answer to this, but we try in our yoga classes to work with this. Learn to let go of what does not serve you emotionally and physically. Our Luna classes are brilliant for that because we work cyclically through 28 days of learning to let go and moving on. Again, good foods. We're all a bit guilty of not making good food choices, particularly through the last year, but we want to consume nourishing foods that promote good health. Give yourself a pat on the back every single day, and a bit of detox. So detoxing your body of unwanted toxins, and aromatherapy and essential oils can help with that. And the other one that's not there that I meant to add was gratitude meditation. I like that for reducing stress as well. Right, so lavender, I'm going to, here it is again. It is amazing. So I'm just going to, now we're nearing the end, and I'm going to talk you through some oils to think of to use, okay, for stress and anxiety reduction, all right? So lavender, natural stress relief. It is widely used for calming and relaxing qualities. It can help with skin irritations, helping with that. It actually helps skin recover quickly, which is good, and easing of muscle tension, which is why it's so often used in aromatherapy massage. It's brilliant for that. Lemon is amazing for immunity, okay? So benefits cleansing and purifies the air and surfaces. So it's a great one if you want to get it around the house, if you're using a diffuser or all those other wee things I said, the cotton wool balls, all that. It naturally cleanses the body and aids in digestion, which is why, away from the essential oils, starting your day with a hot water and a slice of lemon is the best thing you can put in your body to start your day. It supports healthy respiratory function. It promotes positive mood, so it's an uplifting one, isn't it? And cognitive ability. So if you've got maybe older kids who are having to study, really good for them to help a wee bit of focus, a wee bit of uplift when they're trying to study. Helps ward off free radicals because it's an antioxidant, and it also soothes an irritated throat. Honey and lemon, classic, eh? What else? So the peppermint one. So just talking about your happy belly again. When we're not in chronic fight or flight, when we're able to convince our body to function in the parasympathetic side of our nervous system, peppermint can be really good. So when I said never ingest them, I think peppermint oil is the kind of one exception I would maybe allow for that, is a good quality peppermint oil. Very small quantities. It can promote healthy respiratory function again and help clear breathing. So see, like a mucousy kind of cough or an irritated cough. It does alleviate stomach upsets, and obviously the pharmaceutical industry still use it in its essential oil form in like oral health products. Okay, so this is, look at some calming ones to calm the body. So we want to bring stress and anxiety down. So what kind of oils would we use? So essential oils are known to calm this central nervous system. So calming, so there's that nervous system, those nervous system words again. So we want to get out of the sympathetic side into the parasympathetic side, activate, rest, and digest, and reduce stress. Okay, so these three components are essential to boosting immunity and reducing stress naturally. If you want to avoid medication, I would say try all this first. Okay, so I mentioned chamomile before in terms of that nice facial massage. It is so therapeutic. It is so calming. It's not one of my favourite scents, but topically applied, you can't help but calm down with it. It's calming on the skin, mind, and the body. So it's a very calming effect on inflammations on the skin, aggravated skin. It soothes systems of the body and supports healthy immune system function. It is also one that if you've got tiny wee babies, or bigger babies, bigger kids, the reason I said tiny wee babies is there's very few essential oils you would use, but this is one of them in small quantities. In a carrier oil with your baby massage is just awesome. And for their little teething little gums, you can just rub some chamomile diluted in oil for the really soothing for them. Right, okay, this is an uplifting one because it's citrus, but it is a powerful cleanser and purifying agent. Protects against seasonal environmental threats. It is high in antioxidants, and it's very uplifting. So again, these uplifting ones, don't always think of reducing stress and anxiety as your lavenders of the world, you know, those really sedating type ones, which are all lovely. Think about how your mood feels when you're stressed and anxious. It feels low, doesn't it? So think about being uplifted by the citrusy kind of side of the essential oil offerings. Ylang ylang. I love this one too. It is quite, I was going to say potent, that's not the word, heady, quite heady, but it is so, so good for lifting the mood. So this one promotes healthy skin and hair, which is always good, lifts the mood while having a calming effect. I often think these more Eastern type ones like jasmine, ylang ylang, these kind of heady type ones have this really weird dichotomy of being able to lift your mood while still having a bit of a sedative quality. It definitely helps lessen tension and stress and promotes a positive outlook. And Melissa, you might not have heard of this, but I think its other name is lemon balm. I could be wrong with that, but it's that kind of lemon verbena, lemon balm type of plant, okay? Helps support and helps boost healthy immune system, calms tension in nerves. Again, it can be used for occasional stomach discomfort, a bit like peppermint can. Helps calm the nerves and initiate restful sleep. Okay, I think that's actually the last one in terms of slides. No, I've just taken that right back to that. I think it is the last one, but I do have more to say. It is. Right, so the other ones I want to mention, because I could have gone on, I mean, literally you could go on forever on, trying to get to the last slide. It doesn't matter where we are. Do you know what? I'll just stop the share now because I've finished on terms. Right, so I just want to mention some more ones, right? So just a few more. Jasmine and rose. So those heady floral what scents are very, very good for calming anxiety and stress. Geranium's another one. That's another quite floral one, which is really good. Neroli and bergamot. Now, neroli, good quality neroli it's super expensive, but bergamot's quite a good, more affordable one. And then the other one is you might not have heard of, but you might have heard of it if you drink, like if you like herbal teas, like bedtime teas, valerian. It comes valerian root. It's also in, do you know those CAMS remedies that you get over the counter? It's also in them. They're very, 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 this is very good for calming the nerves, and you can get it in essential oil form. The other thing I just want to talk to you about very briefly before I finish off is buying them, because it can be a minefield, especially if you are just generally interested in it and you're a bit like, I don't know where to start. I would say, right, okay, I've got actually just really ripping this from a book, this buying them things. I thought this book summarised it brilliantly, okay? So things to look for, right? So I'll give you these little points to look for when buying them. So always buy them in dark bottles, okay? If you see essential oils that are in clear glass bottles, don't buy them, okay? Because sunlight is the biggest deterioration of it. And if you think it's been sitting on a shop shelf with really bright lights in glass bottles, it's going to lose its potency, okay? So you'll find the good quality ones, the good quality companies like your Neil Yard of the world, they're in dark glass for a reason. Always buy from shops with a high turnover, so that they turn over their stock. They've not been sitting on a shelf in sunlight for ages. You need the droppers on them, so either the ones that you tilt up but it just lets out the drop, or those little syringe droppers. You need that because you want to be able to control how much you're putting in. Only buy small quantities, so you don't want to be using, like, you don't need a lot, so there's no point wasting your money buying it in bulk from anywhere, okay? Never buy them in plastic containers. They just don't go, okay? Essential oils in plastic just don't go, so don't decant them into a plastic thing in your house. because some of the chemicals in plastic will interact with the constituents in the essential oil and cause spoil the oil basically, so just don't do that. So when you're buying, look for the phrase pure essential oil, okay? Don't, if anything's labelled aromatherapy oil, don't buy that one. You want an oil that says pure essential oil. Only pure undiluted essential oils can be used effectively. So if you're buying one that smells nice and it's an aromatherapy oil, but it's not pure, you're not going to get those very clear medicinal type of effects of the oil. And the last one's hard, right? Because times are tough. But buy the most expensive oils you can, okay? Buy good quality ones. Now, I have seen oils in places like your B&M and Home Bargains of the world, and it's tempting, but it's like false economy to buy them because they're not going to be, they're just not going to have the potency in them at all. So if another thing is, sometimes you'll go into a shop and you'll see all these essential oils and they're all exactly the same price. I wouldn't buy from a shop that have done that, because harken back to the wine thing, it's like going into Tesco and buying and pricing a £5 bottle of wine the same price as a £20 bottle of wine. It's to do with the yield, the quality of the crop, you know, the extraction. It's to do with all that, and it reflects the price and it changes. So that's why I like Neil's Yard. Okay, I'm not forcing people to buy any particular brand, but I like Neil's Yard. But see, when you look at the price list for Neil's Yard, none of them, there's not an oil that's the same, and some of them literally come in like the most minute quantities. So for example, neroli is 20 times more expensive than lavender, so you wouldn't have them next in the same price next to each other on a shelf. So that's a kind of wee whistle stop tour of what to look for when you're buying them. And I've talked for an hour, and I cannot actually believe that it was meant to be half an hour, and I always do that because I always go on a bit. But that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions, even though I'm not an expert, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Right, so there's a good one, a pregnant lady. Right, I come prepared because I figured somebody would ask me that, right? So, okay, I do have a book here that I had, let me just see. So there's basically mostly you can use, right? I'm going to find this one where it tells me which ones you can, okay? And I'm going to tell you which ones are off limits. All right, hang on. Cloves, one of them. Not that you would really, you wouldn't really use cloves. Does anybody else get any other questions while I find this page for Hayley? Congratulations, Hayley, by the way, on your pregnancy. Let me find this page. Any other questions anybody's got? If I can't find this, Hayley, I'll just ask you to drop me an email and I'll send you a list, because it doesn't seem to be jumping out to me. I had this today. Oh, this is a really good book, actually, this one. Aromatherapy and Massage for Mother and Baby if you are pregnant. It's not jumping out at me, Hayley, the ones you can't use. So do you want to just drop me an email? It's ann@yogabellies.co.uk. This is a good book. It's just not jumping out at me on it, because I was reading today what you can't use. So if you do that for me, Hayley. Otherwise, if no one's got any questions, then I will say good night. Hang on, I'm just going to quickly flick here because it's annoying me. I want to be able to tell you tonight, but it's not jumping out. Right, Neil's Yard, is there any other brand companies that I trust? I don't know. I really just like Neil's Yard, and it's because I'm lazy and I don't shop around. I know some people like doTERRA ones, and I do think they're quite good. I've never looked into them. I think they're quite expensive in a good way. doTERRA, DOTERRA. I've never tried them myself, but I have heard they're very good. But I just feel Neil's Yard, I can trust the ethics of them, and I can trust the quality of them. And they're not exorbitant either. Do you know, they're kind of a good balance. Hyperemesis, Louise. Oh, thank you. Hyperemesis, I don't know, I'll have a look and think about that as well, maybe post in the sanctuary, because I'm sure everybody with hyperemesis is everything they hear is ginger, and it's like if anyone else mentions ginger to a woman with morning sickness or hyperemesis, she'll probably punch them. But I don't know, peppermints come out at me, and I don't know why, but I don't quote me on that. I will post on the sanctuary. Do you know what I'll do, right? So when I post this recording on the sanctuary, I will answer Hayley's question on oils to use in pregnancy that are safe, and perhaps have a wee think about severe morning sickness and hyperemesis. All right, ladies, thank you so much for coming. As I say, I'll post the recording, but thank you so much for listening to me rabbit on at you. So take care, everybody. Bye.